I want to make sure that people know that even stuff like that is a skill that they can build. Having a good ear is a skill that you can build. It's not something that you have to just sit back with your mouth agape and just be like, wow, if you are a singer and you want to build this, you can 1000%. And so I'm driven, by wanting other singers to know that.
Hey, welcome to the Monique on the Mic podcast. My name is Monique B. Thomas, and this is episode number 11 already. Listen, today's guest is so exciting for me. You may know her from The Robin's Nest. Her name is Ashley Robin, and she's the only person on the planet that I know that makes learning scales and modes fun. So we're going to talk to her about that and some other things that I know you singers all might be dealing with. Let's get into it. So please welcome to the show, Miss Ashley Robin. Hi, Ashley. How are you?
Hi, everyone. I'm doing very well today. How are you, Mo?
I'm not even gonna lie. I'm super excited. I'm excited because it's very rare that I meet somebody with a similar background to mine, meaning, we've both studied opera, we've both studied jazz. And so with those two large backgrounds and plus being an African-American person, that comes also with a certain set of musical background and musicality and things like that. That kind of fills in the gap between jazz and opera. And so I just rarely meet people with that. And so I'm super excited because I think that it leads you to be the kind of person that you are. But what I want to know is, well, I know a little bit about you because I've read about you, but I want you to tell us a little bit about how you got started.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, I knew, we were recording this today. And so I'm thinking about how I'm going to answer this question as I'm getting ready this morning. And one of the things that came to me is it's so interesting how it was always there. I remember being like 6 or 7 and just loving music. I would put on concerts with my dolls. Like I had this bed set up where I could pretend that it was a stage, put the dolls on top and play the music and they're dancing and performing. And then even I have this really vivid memory. Of course, you could probably tell I was a big Barbie head. So there was a type of Barbie called the Beyond Pink Barbie, and she was a rock star. And it came with an album. And so the first song, like the main song, I remember again being like 6 or 7. And it wasn't even that I loved the song. I was gushing over the production of the song. I was like going to my older sister and my stepbrothers at the time. And I was like, do you hear the organ on this? This is so cool. So like, I feel like in a way it was always there, but of course I'm super grateful for like having a musical upbringing, growing up in church, us always singing together. My father played all types of music, so I had a really well-rounded background with music, and so I'm super grateful for that. And then coming through school, like around, junior high school was when I started to get serious, branched off, went to a performing arts high school, and that kind of solidified it for me. Like by the time I was done at that high school, I was like, this is it. Music. Yeah. Music all the way.
It's not like you even chose it. It chose you, right? Yeah.
Kind of.
Now, do you come from a musical family? Because I saw your dad in one of your Instagram videos. It was so cute. You giving him a lesson. I thought that was so cute.
Thank you. Yeah, my dad is a musical person, but I think the thing about it is that he doesn't see himself that way. It's so strange. I tell him all the time, like, you've been singing all my life. You're probably one of the reasons I sing at all. And you don't think that you're a musical person. It's so strange. But yeah, he actually, came up singing. He was a DJ in the 70s, a really big DJ in New York City. It's kind of cool, to go back and look at the pictures and stuff, but he's really big into like sound fidelity. Wow. And, he sings, he came through, what do you call it? He went to college briefly for classical singing. Okay. And so he has training there. And then, like I said, we grew up in church. He was one of the pastors at the church. So always singing, always playing music, all types of music too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So outside of your family and even your church family, was there somebody that found you and said, child, please make sure you go into music? Was there somebody special that pointed you in that direction and say, hey, you've got a gift?
Well, it's kind of probably a mixture of influences that pushed me in that direction. I know you said besides my family, but I know like my father and my sister are like one of my biggest inspirations inside the family. And then outside, when you grow up in church, it's like, as soon as they find out you got a little something, they throw a mic at you. And they're like, you gonna sing.
You're gonna sing the Lord's music today.
Right. Today. Right. And then, in addition to that, there's like I remember in high school, one of my first years of high school, before I went to the specialized high school, because I went to a local high school first. And I remember when I was leaving to go to the specialized high school, one of my teachers I made this little yearbook because I wasn't going to have a proper one for that school. So I made, and she wrote in my notebook, Ashley, please, please, please be a jazz singer.
Aww.
And I was like,
aw, the encouragement.
So it's, yeah, that's like one of the biggest memories that I have of someone like saying, this is yours. Please, I beg you, do it.
Right,
yeah.
Right. So, you know what? I want to go back to what you said about church because I'm a fond believer, as we know that all Black American music is kind of like the world's music. Everybody loves and sort of takes from what we do. And for us, a lot of that comes from the church. And I want to give credit where credit is due. How do you feel that growing up in the church has influenced you musically and also as even your development of musicality skills, musicianship?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I grew up in a family church. So kind of as I alluded to earlier, everybody knows each other. And the moment they see that there's a spark of something in you, they hand you a microphone and they stand you up in front of people. Right. And so what this does is it gives you a sense of performance technique from a young age. It's like you start to pick up on how you can deliver things musically, what works, what doesn't work. And in a lot of ways, the church is kind of like a training ground for your musicality, for performance technique. It's like a safe space, a little like cocoon that you can use to test things out. I remember when I was 15, I think that was like one of my awakening moments. I don't know if that's a thing, like a musical awakening, right? Where it's like, I think I really realized, I was like, wow, I could do this. Like, I'm not bad. But the trouble with that is that, of course, I sang the song for like 15 minutes.
You're like, tell your story, but we hungry.
Exactly. And I remember so vividly singing until everybody was with me because it was like one of my first solos. Everybody was with me. Everybody's on their feet, into it. And then I vividly and distinctly remember like looking around the room and people just slowly starting to sit down and just like, all right now. Cause I was digging in.
You were going.
I was digging in anyway. Now in hindsight, I was not digging in, but I was just kind of getting my feel for it. But
they allowed you that
it's
space.
Moments like that.
They allowed you that
exactly.
space. I think one thing that was a big, I don't think you really realize, some people don't realize how great the church is as a school, not even for singers, but other instrumentalists, until you go somewhere else and you see how other people learn music. So I'm living in Europe and people started wanting to learn gospel. So I started teaching gospel. And the first thing I realized is that our choir parts sit higher than what most choirs are used to singing.
Yes.
And so they're like, can I sing that in falsetto? I'm like, no, I need that in full voice, please. Thank you. And it made me realize that, for example, how many times you have a choir rehearsal and let's say you might be missing a couple tenors. So they might pull some altos down or, they might pull somebody else to be sopranos. Our piano player's missing today. I know you play a little bit. You go sit on the drums. And I always thought that was special because the only thing they wanted from us was to try to fill the role. They didn't expect us to be great at it. In fact, they knew it wouldn't be, but there was like that, as you say, that safe space that allowed us to fail forward that then fosters the idea of, well, okay, maybe I'm starting where I'm starting, but I can get better. I think that's a major part of our education that fosters, great musicians.
I agree. Hearing you say it kind of makes me emotional because it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. And I don't know if I would be the same person musically if not for what singing at church and having the space to sing at church and having the space to find myself musically in a way. Because there were other things, of course, that helped me do that. But that was a big, huge part of my musical development, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think also, so from the Black American church, but also the Black American culture of, for example, as I don't know about you, but as soon as our kids, are old enough to clap their hands, they're clapping on 2 and 4. They're clapping on 2 and 4. We don't let nobody clap on 1 and 3. They clap on 2 and 4. We get them to move to the rhythm. And, again, as I get older and I work with younger students, I'm looking at them like, you know what? I'm not doing them any service if I'm not teaching them that right from the get-go. It's something that there's no reason for that to be a stigma when you're 24. You should have learned it already. And so that's one thing I really appreciate, because I realized that by the time I got to school and started studying European classical music, a lot of the musicianship I had learned. It was already built in. My sense of time and sense of rhythm was impeccable. The ears were better because we tend to do things vocally. We're not reading sheet music in church. So everything has to be picked up by the ear, whether it's the rhythm, the intonation, the inflections, ends of phrases, beginning of phrases, fall offs, all that stuff. We have to pick it all up. And even though the person teaching us doesn't always know how to articulate it, they know how to show it, but they don't necessarily know how to put it into words. And so it's like, I feel like, now, let me, just for our listeners, I'm not saying our culture is better than any other culture. I'm just saying this is one way that you can learn musicality. And obviously that leads us to have someone like an Ashley Robin who's doing what she's doing, who's combined then this church culture, this African-American culture with then European classical. So tell me about your classical studies.
Yeah. They really began in high school. I went to a specialized high school in New York City called LaGuardia High School. And they, right from the beginning, as soon as you get in there, you've got to start learning arias. And I always tell the story because I think it's hilarious. I remember my first solo and voice class in high school. I thought I knew what I was doing. 15 years old. I was just like, yeah, this song is easy. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to sing it. It's going to be great. And I just remember going up there and singing with zero understanding of what classical sound should be. And just the scoops and the dips and the, And when I was done, my teacher was like, okay, so, and I was so confident. But yeah, I like to tell that story because it makes me laugh, but I am really, really grateful for my classical training. Again, it was really emphasized in high school. And what I loved about it was, number one, I feel like it made me well-rounded. It gave me an appreciation for a different sound. Because up until that point, again, it was all church music or R&B, soul, rap, so I hadn't yet been exposed to, with the exception of certain things with my dad, the idea that I could sing classically.
Right.
I hadn't, I didn't know. I didn't know that I could.
Right.
So that experience in high school really helps. They really focused mostly on classical up until your last year, and then you got to do a semester of Broadway, right? Right. But yeah, so from there, I again, as I mentioned earlier, high school was where I realized that I wanted to do music for the rest of my life. And so once I was finished with that, I went to college to get my bachelor's. My plan, my hope was actually to go straight for jazz because I felt like high school, I jazz was what I wanted.
Okay.
I got into like Kim Burrell and all that around that time. And I really admired the way that she could just and can just do whatever she wants, like come from any angle, hit whatever note she wants to do. So I wanted to be like that.
Right.
And so I knew that she was, I knew her background was in jazz because I could hear it. And so I said, well, I need to study jazz because if I study jazz, then maybe I'll come out with an ear like that.
Right.
And so,
not a bad idea.
I went to college. Yeah. I mean, the logic track.
Yeah.
So, so I go to, I go to, undergrad audition for the music program. It was a small music program. And I always kind of joked and said that I was kind of tricked into getting my bachelor's in classical. Because I remember, auditioning. I sang Isiba. As as my French piece. Okay. And then I sang a little jazz. I forget what song I did. And then I remember at the end of the audition, I said, they had accepted me kind of on the spot. And I remember saying like, are we going to do jazz too? And the teacher was like, yeah, yeah.
With a slide.
And I was like, right, like, right. And I always say I didn't get a drop of jazz in my undergrad studies until the last 2 semesters. And I had to e-permit out to another school.
Oh, wow.
To get that. Yeah. But even with all that being said, I still am very grateful for what I learned because I felt like it prepared me to hold my own technically. This is not to say that if you don't learn classical, you can't get those basic, principles of breathing and all that sort of stuff, musicianship and all that stuff. But I feel like it definitely helped me to understand the concept, and practicing that and having to practice it that way. I just think it was helpful and it gave me another color. It gave me another, helped me to access another, I guess, shade.
See,
in my voice.
All right.
Which I appreciate.
See, low keys, just for everybody, just for some context, ever since Ashley had decided to do the podcast interview, because I don't know Ashley. I just reached out to her because I'm like, this is a kindred spirit. There's something about her. I really like her. I feel her. I see her. I need to contact her. And so since then, I've been writing on her posts, and she wrote something about ASMR. And I was like, yeah, that song is crunchy. And I knew you knew what I was talking about. I was like, it made me want to eat bacon. And I can tell that we have a very similar way of maybe processing information to a certain degree. When you said colors, I mean, I think for us artists, it really is about having a large color palette because we flip stuff up all the time. It's like today I'm like totally into mauve, and then the next day it's like, no. It's almost like from The Wiz, you change the colors. You got to be mean and green. No, today gold is old, it's red, instead. That type of thing. So I'm just kind of cracking up because she's saying things. I'm like, yeah, I get it. Wait, let me ask you. Are you a coloratura?
No. I think I was classified as a lyric.
Okay.
Soprano.
Okay.
I experiment. Like lately I've been experimenting with whistle tones and like really, really high stuff.
Okay.
But I don't sing up there often.
All right. I was like, that would just.
Are you a coloratura?
I am.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Nice to meet you. My first meeting of a coloratura. It's an honor.
Oh, yeah. No. Listen, I like voices in general. I like all kinds of voices. Of course, you know how it is. Nobody's ever happy with what they got. I'm a really high soprano, but I have low range. Wow. But I've always liked the larger voices, of course. So yeah. It is what it is. But this is what God gave me, so I'm going to run this until it runs no more.
Absolutely. Till the
wheels fall off. Now, what I want to talk about is what really brought me to you and the connection that I feel that we have, even though we don't know each other. What I saw on Instagram is I saw this person who is learned, who is knowledgeable about music, that took something so dry and made it fun. And not only did you make it fun, well, this is behind it, but I can tell that you care. I can tell that you have this mission, and correct me if I'm wrong, of wanting to make sure that singers are really musicians, that they're not just opening their mouth and que sera, sera, whatever comes out, and, we might have to pray it down, throw some holy water on it. I can tell that you're really trying to make sure that singers are armed with tools that they can rely on, so that every time they make music, if they go into the studio, they know what they're hearing. They know how to process it. They know how to communicate with the other musicians if they hear something they don't like or they do like. And I want to know what made you like that, because the business that we're in of teaching voice, it can be a lucrative business. And I've seen a lot of people just do it for the money. And you can just do it for the money. I mean, I think it's kind of sad because it's also a lot of work to just do it for the money. But I see something a little bit different in you. And so I want to know how that came about.
Yeah, when you talk about wanting people to be prepared, wanting people to have the tools to navigate musical situations and to make educated decisions about what they sing and why and how, I always say even to do something for fun is a decision.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but I want you to be able to choose that. That's what I often say to my students. I don't want you to do anything because you don't know how else to do it. Right. I want you to do it because that's how you want to do it.
You better preach, right? Ashley. You better preach. I'm over here saying amen. You better preach. Have a choice.
Right. I always try to emphasize that with them because when I have students, I'm like, but from student to student, obviously, but it's like sometimes I get students who, what they're coming to the lesson with is beautiful. Mm-hmm. Your voice is beautiful. You're doing great things, but I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to do that all the time. Right. I don't want you to do that because you don't know what else to do. I don't want you to do that because that's your autopilot. I want you to be choosing and making art. And I think one of the biggest drivers for me is just knowing what it feels like to be in a musical situation and not know how to communicate. Mm-hmm. Being in a musical situation, not feeling prepared, not feeling like I can be the best version of myself on this microphone as I want to be. That's I don't know. It's important to me. I don't know. Some folks might call it perfectionism. I don't like to call it that. I think perfectionism is a bully.
Yes.
Right? Because it's kept me from doing so many things. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's like, before I got to that point, I got to a point where I was like, I want to be able to hold my own. Like, I want to know what I'm doing. I want to be able to make the choices that I hear these singers that I admire making. And I think it came with the realization that it was a choice. Mm-hmm. And it was not this kind of unreachable, mystified ability.
Yeah.
And, I don't mean to take away the mystique. Like, no. We, as musicians, we want to make it seem like, it's
can't touch this, right?
I can't, right. Exactly. A magician never reveals her secrets, all that sort of stuff.
Right.
But for singers, like from singer to singer and from musician to musician as well, because, I have, friends of mine who play instruments who are interested in what I do too. Mm-hmm. But of course, as a singer, I'm going to appeal mostly to singers. And so from singer to singer, I want to kind of tear down this wall or this idea that it takes a special kind of person to be able to do X, Y, Z.
Right.
Yeah, I know. Some of us are born with natural talents in certain directions or other directions. But generally, there's a lot that we can learn how to do. Even from like the thought of like hearing, because, we're really big now, at least on social media, we're really big on people who can run. Mm-hmm. Anyone who does a crazy run seemed to be going viral.
Yep. Exactly.
So that's another one of those things that sometimes we as singers can look at and just be like, it's to make you want to quit. Like, why am I doing this when Jasmine Sullivan and Tori Kelly exist? Right. What am I doing?
Right. Right.
I want to make sure that people know that even stuff like that is a skill that they can build. having a good ear is a skill that you can build. It's not something that you have to just sit back with your mouth agape and just be like, wow, if you are a singer and you want to build this, you can 1000%. And so I'm driven, by wanting other singers to know that.
And that, my friends, is why I asked her on this show, because this show is about empowering singers, about empowering artists during their development, during their journey from different angles. And so from one singer to another, having somebody else that's saying, because I say it all the time, so I'm in an echo chamber. I'm always hearing myself say, learn this stuff. But to have someone else who's doing really, really, really well on social media say these things, it's obviously it's validating for me, but it's also, people need to hear this often, that no, you're not just born with XYZ. A lot of it is learned, whether it's learned in a school or it's learned by studying an album, it's still learned. It's been practiced somewhere along the line. So, I'm super, super excited about that. So tell us a little bit more about, what made you start to just, say, I'm going to put this on Instagram? Because again, when I said dry, I mean, scales and modes for a lot of people is dry. It's dry. The water's dry. You know what I mean? I remember in jazz, and I know my modes. I know them. I don't know them as good as you do, but I know my modes, right? But learning it was just not fun. It wasn't fun. It was just like, okay, C to C, D to D, E to E. Okay. But you make it fun. Like I swear, I'm waiting for your stuff to come out on Instagram so I can get some practice in. So because you could have done a lot of things. A lot of other people would just go on the route of, I'll teach the riffs and runs rather than teaching the understanding of what material goes into the riffs and runs. You're teaching the material. But other people mostly teach the runs, and really they're just teaching you how to copy, but you're not getting a sense of what you're actually using. So it's not as reusable. So what made you do that?
I am like holding in like the biggest screams and because amen.
I'm telling you, when I saw you, you know what I mean? I was like, oh my goodness, this is a different angle, but I see what she's doing here. And I really, really love it. I need to talk to her. That's why I was like, you know what? I know she don't know me from a can of paint, but I'm going to write to her and tell her I want to interview her, and we'll see what happens. So this is how you got to try things. You never know. Okay.
Yes, this is true. But yeah, I mean, that's a great segue into the answer. I mean, essentially, I was just confronted, I guess, with the need to get my modes together. Okay. I'll tell this story super quick. The person who set me on this path is a really important person to me. I haven't known him for a very long time, but he's become such an important person in my life at this point so quickly. He's a mentor of mine, and so he's also my manager. Okay. And so we were recording. Well, before that, he had actually taught me how to look at modes and how to start to transfer them into my voice or whatever have you. Because he's a guitarist, amazing guitarist. You should have him on one day. But
listen, I'm eating everything you putting out right now. Okay,
he's great. But
what's his name? Let's give him a shout out.
Oh, sure, Chris Morgan.
Chris Morgan.
Morgan is yes, anyhow, my hero. Anyway, he taught me everything, right? And I should have dug in after he showed me because his ear is in outer space. Like if you think I have a good ear, he is like. And so one night at a recording session, he's like, "Oh, you know what you should do? You should do a run at this part, and you should switch from Dorian to Aeolian." And I'm like, I should. Yeah. You're absolutely right. I'm like, that's a great idea.
Let me get back to you.
Yeah. Right. But here's the thing. I sat there for 45 minutes. It had to be about 45 minutes, trying over and over and over and over again to get this run, to think of something that would go from Dorian to Aeolian, and I could not hear it. I couldn't hear it.
Okay.
I couldn't hear it for the life of me. And I actually had to stop the session. Well, we got to the end of the session, right? Because by the end of 45 minutes to listen to somebody try to do something they can't do, everybody's frustrated. Everybody wants to just, let's table this.
Come back when you're ready.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. But that feeling, oh, never again. I said never again. And so, when the session was over, everybody, frustrated, we're cooling down. He texts me, he's like, you need to learn your modes. And I told you that. And I'm like, you're absolutely right. I'm going to get on it. Okay. So the next day, I sat at my keyboard and I'm like, all right, because that's never happened to me again. I'm going to learn these modes and I'm going to start with Dorian. And I was practicing it, perhaps in a more dry way, just going up the scales, singing to myself. Then I stopped. I pulled my hands from the keyboard and tried to do it just vocally. And that major 6 was kicking my butt. It was kicking my behind. And so I realized I had to figure out how I'm going to make this easy for myself to remember. Right? And so I turned it into an exercise. I put words to it. I emphasized the major 6. For myself. And that actually turned into my first post. Now, the reason I posted it wasn't because I wanted to be the modes girl on Instagram.
I'm going to grow up to be the modes girl on Instagram.
Right.
I'm going to aspire to that. Yeah.
Exactly. It was literally just me. I'm an independent artist as well, songwriter and all that
producer.
Sort of stuff. And so, right, producer, yes.
You wear many hats. I saw them, and this will all be going into the episode notes. Don't worry about it.
So I was just trying to offer a helpful, because that's how I was building my content. I was trying to figure out how to be helpful because trying to figure out social media. The biggest thing in social media right now is being helpful to the person, being helpful to the people who are following you in some way. And not just making it all about yourself, but trying to find things that connect with people. So I just made a suggestion. I said, if you're a singer, these are the reasons it'd be great to learn your modes. And while I was showing my little list on the screen, I was actually singing my Dorian exercise that I had just made. And then that post was pinging like crazy. Everybody's like, this is so cool. Like, you should do more of these. And then I get all these comments like, please do every mode. I'm like,
pay me.
So I'm like, okay. Well, I didn't have that mind at the time.
I'm kidding.
No, I'm kidding too. So then it became a little series. I did them in order. I did Phrygian the next day, then Lydian, Mixed Lydian, etc. And then by the end of it, someone had commented, if you put these exercises in a PDF, I'd buy it. And I was like, oh, you would? Would you now?
Shut up and take my money, right? Like, now we're talking.
Right. So then I spent some time putting together exercises, mainly written exercises to help people not just sing through the scale, but play with the scale and gain more dexterity in the scale. So those same kinds of vocal agility exercises we would do, like maybe doing things in thirds or doing things in groups of 3 and all that sort of stuff. Do that, but alter the notes. And that helps us to gain the same kind of agility or whatever. And that was how I built that the actual exercise collection. But it wasn't even like I woke up and I was like, modes. It's modes all the way. It was just one moment where I said, this is a cool thing that I am learning. I think that other people would benefit from learning it too. So I'll just throw it out as a helpful hint, and whoever is helped is helped. And otherwise, I'll post something else tomorrow. But it took a whole other turn.
That is crazy. And so wait, when would you post your very first video on this?
Ooh, I want to say it was early 2022.
That's not that long ago.
No,
that's not that long ago. So just I'm saying this so that people can sort of get a time span on the moment you make a commitment to do something and the time that you reap the benefits. Maybe like, and you're doing it consistently. It could be like 2 years or something like that. I mean, you've reaped it before then, but just to give people, because people always think, especially with Instagram and social media, that everything is overnight. It's like, no, you're seeing the tip of the iceberg. You're not seeing all the work I did underneath. And going back to the embarrassment and how you turn that around to something to, you turn it to your benefit. You said, never again. I'm never going to be in a situation where, people are speaking a musical language and I don't understand it. If I'm a musician, I have to speak musician's language.
You are saying the words that are in my heart. Absolutely.
And so I love that, because you could have turned it and said, I'm just stick your tail between your legs and go sit in the corner and never be heard of again. But no, Miss Robbins said, not me, not this one. We're going to learn these modes. Somebody I love and trust said, learn these modes. I'm going to learn these modes. And so how has learning these modes changed how you approach singing?
Oh, yeah. It's made it a lot more fun, honestly. Because before that point, it's like you get into a rut. Like singers, we get into a rut sometimes. And you find yourself, I'm singing regularly, leading worship at church, performing, etc. And it's like, okay, to y'all, and to the average listener, to people I'm singing to, you all may not have any sense, not necessarily any sense that what I'm doing is trite or not enough for the moment. Like we're carrying the moment. We're doing what we have to do. Performances are going well, all that sort of stuff. People in church are connecting. But for me, on the inside, I'm like, I've heard more and I know I could do more.
Right.
If I just, like, what is it? Like, what is it that differentiates me from the singers that I admire?
Right.
And it's about finding the bridge from here to there. That's so important, as opposed to sitting in the space and being like, this is just the type of singer I am. Like, I can't, I'm not a runner. I'm not a this. I can't belt. I'm blah, 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 blah. Just sit. You have the option of sitting and consigning yourself to being a certain type of singer, or you can build the skills that will help you to gain the ground that you want. And so I think since adding modal colors to my palette, right? I've been having a lot more fun.
Yeah.
I've been having a lot more fun. I've been experimenting more. I've been finding these moments to use what I've learned and to use what could have been a very academic and, head knowledge based pursuit. I'm using it as a tool to, and I don't want to overuse the painting metaphor, but it really is just being able to paint with new colors and learn and with new techniques and with your blending and all that sort of stuff. It's been fun, I will say. I think that's my number one.
Yeah.
My number one word.
I don't think we can overuse the metaphor of painting because, we've got our primary colors, but then, you've got shades of red, shades of green, shades of yellow. And let's say, when you're an artist, if you're painting your bedroom, you're not just going to pick any old kind of yellow. Right. It's going to be sunset yellow or, Puerto Rican sunset yellow. It's That's a shout out to my girlfriend from Puerto Rico because her and my brother are chilling in Puerto Rico right now, and I'm here freezing my butt off, and I'm jealous. But anyway, you know what I mean.
Well, now I am too.
You know what I mean. It's about specificity, specificity.
Yeah.
Right. Being specific because you can be specific. Otherwise, you're just taking generic red, generic blue, generic yellow, or whatever, and that's okay. But when you've been doing it for a while, let me see. Do you get bored easily?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think most great artists do get bored easily because it's like we've done it and we've done it enough that thing we're doing becomes easy. It becomes second nature. And it's like, okay, I need some other excitement. What's going on around here? What we got? Right. What we got to work with. Right. Now, I imagine that your pursuit of singing the modes has definitely made musicians treat you differently. Tell me about that.
Ooh. Well, I mean, I want to frame this in the best way.
Yeah.
It's not, boy, because there's levels to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because not only am I a musician, I am a female musician.
Mm-hmm. I know what you're saying.
I'm a Black female musician.
I know where you're going.
I'm a Black female musician whose primary instrument is her voice.
Mm-hmm.
So, on one hand, I've gotten a lot of really great reception and respect from really cool people around me. Like I said, my mentor and then my friends who are musicians. Like we are, there's like a mutual respect that we always had for each other, that has remained. And I love that it's easier to articulate what I want to hear in any given moment. That's a huge blessing. But then, you do run across the occasional,
person
who, just, I want to say that I've been heavily supported and I've received tons of love.
Yeah.
And like I said, in a sense, respect from people who know the stuff and from people who don't know the stuff. Yeah. But then there's always the backdoor side of it where it's like, you want to challenge me on like whether it's D flat or C sharp. Like,
yeah.
Okay.
At the end of the day, does it sound good or does it sound bad? Yeah, I mean, right. Are we really going to get into, what's that word I'm looking for? Oh, I can't find it. It's like semantics, come on, are you here for that? Because that's a different game altogether. I mean, and I personally am not interested in that particular game, whether it's D flat or C sharp. I call it blurple if you want. I really don't care. Right. But I'll tell you what, I'll put it in the right spot at the right time, and then we can talk about that. Now run tell that. You know what I mean? But no, I know what you mean. There are going to be some musicians that no matter how well you do, just because you are a woman and your primary instrument is voice, they're going to expect less of you and treat you as if you did less, even though you did more. But I would be willing to bet that there's a caliber of musician out there that they see you and they see you. They're like, oh, I see what you do. Okay. Yeah, she went to the shed and she did the work. She's one of us.
Yeah, 1,000%. And I just want to emphasize that there's been more of that than there has been anything else.
Yeah.
And it has been really rewarding and validating to be able to have even this conversation. Like, this is the sort of thing that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't just made that post. And then after that, if I hadn't continued and if I hadn't tried to figure out new ways for myself to grow in this area, but also share what works for me with other people. And so I've been met with a lot more people who are just like, if they're not like, how do I do that? Please show me. It's like, exactly. It's two kinds of comments I get.
Dare I say that the people that are like, yeah, this is really cool, are the ones that are truly for the music. They're not about perpetuating negativity and things like that. They're really about, let's just, because when it's good, when we're playing together and it's good, it's really good. It's soul stirring. It is something I get often in lessons, and I think it's great. It's healing. There's something healing about people coming together, being vulnerable, being daring, but not stupidly daring. They're daring in a way that's still knowledgeable. You can take those risks, because you've actually already traveled that road before. You just might be doing it in a slightly different way. But I think that's wonderful. And what I think that's wonderful about what you're doing is you're doing something that still eludes a lot of people, but you're not keeping it for yourself. You're not keeping it for yourself. And I think that's important, especially in the world of music. And if we go even deeper between singers, my last week's, actually this week, yesterday, whatever, today's Monday. Today's episode, which is episode 10, it's about jealousy in the artist community. And I talk about that. And, that's something that unfortunately is prevalent. And so when you do have somebody that has a knowledge that most singers don't fathom, and you have that person that is sharing, they're not like, I'm going to keep this for me. You're actually sharing this stuff. You're making it accessible. You're making it sexy, if I will. I think that that's something that's to be commended. And that's really why I wanted you on the show, because I'm like, with my little podcast show for now, if I can, hopefully 10 years from now, somebody will see this podcast and hopefully they'll already know who you are by then. But, you never know who's listening. And I'm like, this person needs the biggest platform ever, because you just don't see this combination. You're either going to see somebody's doing something great and they're like me, or they're not doing it at all, and so I think it's important as artists that we do come together, that we build communities of like-minded people. We're all a little bit vulnerable, right? At the end of the day, because it's a vulnerable art form. If you're not being vulnerable at all, what are you doing?
Right. Right.
I'll be honest with you. I'm an open book, and I'm very transparent about the fact that I still study. I still take voice lessons with my teacher. Everybody knows him, Greg Enriquez. I want to take a one-to-one lesson with you. I do, because I want to, I get bored easily, and I wouldn't say I'm in a rut, but I do know that I've spent so much of my time, of late, being a better teacher, that sometimes I need to feed myself as an artist as well, because we tend to forget that, when we have both roles. How are you dealing with the role of being a teacher and an artist?
Oh yeah. It's been an adjustment. Mm-hmm. It's been an adjustment. Coming out of college, I wanted to, going into college, I'll start there. Going into college, I wanted to come out as a teacher. Mm-hmm. That was my goal. I was going to go to undergrad, get everything I wanted musically. Like I told you earlier, I wanted to do jazz, mm-hmm. right? And then the plan was to go to grad school for education, music education. What ended up happening was, because all my undergrad was classical, mm-hmm. I wanted to go to grad school for jazz. Mm-hmm. So that's how I reconciled that. Okay. And I remember when I was leaving undergrad, one of the things that my teacher said, one of my teachers, my advisor actually, she said, "You have all your life to be a teacher. Go do something cool."
Can we kiss this person? I love that.
Right.
I love that.
So yeah, it's just like you can do that at any point, be a school teacher if that's what you really want later on down the road. Right now, go out, do something cool. Yeah. And I took that to heart. And so coming out of college, I really wanted to focus on, being an artist and pushing that side of myself. Mm-hmm. I was writing songs already. I'd been writing songs since high school. Mm-hmm. And so, I was just getting the bravery to actually go into a studio and start to record myself and actually put something together that people would be able to hear. Because again, I'm battling, perfectionism at the time. Like, hey, am I supposed to do this? Like, I really want to do this, but what if it doesn't come out?
Right.
The tortured soul of it all. And so it to me, it's like, it's so ironic, because it's like, I feel like the teacher side of me is such an important part of me that it almost chased me. It's like you keep trying to walk away from it, mm-hmm. And run away from it to focus, and you've got it compartmentalized. But I think that what I've realized over the past year or so is that it doesn't have to be compartmentalized necessarily. I can do both. I can help people grow, and I can show them who I am as a musician and as an artist. Because I think that's one of the goals of artistry, is to be understood, is to be like, I think all of us who make music, and especially those of us who like make it from the ground up, who, produce it and write it and arrange it and all that sort of stuff. Every piece of it almost, it comes from your mind. And being a musician who puts their music out is like being someone just standing in the street naked. Like, look, look at this. It came from inside of my heart. And that can be a very scary thing.
But scary, but look at you. I mean, just in the last week on Instagram, if anybody's following you, you made a song out of a word that confidence, right? That everybody, you asked them what to do, and you gave us prompts and stuff like that. And then you showed us a piece of it, and he's like, and it was bumping. And then it's like, should I do more? I'm like, are you crazy? You're not going to leave us like that. We're not going to let you off the hook. You better finish that song. We come get you. Like, what is wrong with you? I love that.
That is so funny. But I think that's the beauty of where I'm at in the journey right now.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier this year, I finally made the decision to, and then this was after conversation with my team and all that sort of stuff, making the decision to split the pages up and have the page where I've basically been posting all of my modes and ear training content be one page, and then branch off and let my artist page kind of breathe on its own, where I'm like creating and making songs, because, everybody's with me for different reasons.
Yes.
And that's something that you have to accept. And that's fine. It's fine. It's perfectly fine that some people want me to give them ear training.
Right.
Because they want to be better. And I want them to be better too. So please, here, take all the ear training. If you have no interest at all in the music that I make, then stay over here.
Right.
But if you also, would like to hear some new music that I'm making, that I care a lot about, and that I'm actually using what I'm teaching you to make,
right,
then you can come over here. And I think the beauty of that is being able to see the true reflection or the true reception of it. Because when you have a page that, people are mainly like there for the ear training, and then you post your song, it's like, it's not that it's a bad song. It's just that this is not
what I'm here for. I didn't come to the store for this.
Exactly.
I came for shoes, and you're trying to sell me hats.
Exactly.
Right.
And so I forget who told me this. It's like social media in a way is like a contract. People follow you. It's like they're signing a contract. I want to see more of this.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, if you don't honor the contract, people may not unfollow you outright, which has happened, but people,
they don't engage.
Just won't engage.
Yeah. They won't engage, and
they
might as well unfollow if they're not going to engage.
Exactly. So having everybody in their silos in a way, it has been refreshing, and it's allowed me to see who really appreciates the art that I make. And that's been a huge encouragement that now it feeds into my encouragement as a teacher. Cause it's like, if you're a dual-sided person who is art, who makes and creates, but also teaches and helps others make and create, and one is lopsided, like one is getting more water, getting flourishing more than the other, it can feel very discouraging. And then the whole plant dies, you know what I mean? But it's been really good to kind of separate the two in a way.
Even though that's got to be more
having them
work,
feed into
though.
each other.
That's got to be more work, though.
Yes, it is. It is.
Fulfilling
but I
work.
like it.
Yeah.
I do like it, because I'm more sure that whatever I post on the Robin's Nest, people are going to be like, yes, that's what I want. And I'm more sure that if whatever I post on Ashley Robin Music, people are going to be like, yes, this is why I'm here. So it's like both, it's more work. 2 pages are getting posted on multiple platforms. Pray for me. But the people who see it want to see it. And that gives me everything I need, honestly.
Cool. So wait a minute. You said team. Can I ask, because I like if we can peek behind the scenes, how big is your team?
Yeah. Oh, I want to say, including me, there are 5 of us.
There's 5. Can you enunciate what each person does?
Sure. So I have 2 managers. They're a husband and wife team. So maybe I should count them as one.
I don't know if they would like that.
Are the same person.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, they're the ones who really kind of work with me on, like, not just what I do, but how. Because there are a couple, they're a lot further in terms of like the music industry than I am. And so they are able to see certain things further than me. And so whereas when I was alone and I was just kind of posting and shooting from the hip, some things would work and some things wouldn't work.
Mhm.
And so having them to kind of bounce ideas off of, and then to talk about, how should I present this? Should I do it this way or should I do it that way? And just having people to talk about it with, it has been really helpful to kind of streamline the process. It makes it a bit easier.
Okay.
And then let's see. Then there's Caleb. He's the only person I called by name so far, but he's like the production person. So in the same way that I go to my managers, we talk about social media, presentation, all that sort of stuff. What's the plan for the year, all that sort of stuff. He kind of helps me continue and grow my understanding of how to produce things and how to, make sounds and make things sound well polished.
Okay.
So he's kind of helped me a huge deal with that.
So are you?
And then the last person.
Wait,
I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I'm cutting you off for a second. So you're producing all your own. You're recording your own videos and stuff by yourself. Nobody is editing and doing that for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
You wear many hats.
Yes. We are producing. We are recording. We are editing. We are tuning. We are.
You got 10 jobs, man.
Recording. We are exactly. We are editing. We are thinking of the captions.
Okay.
So it's a lot.
Okay.
But I do have a lot of help at the same time. I have a lot of people to bounce things off of, which has been helpful.
Okay.
And then the last person, who's also important as well, his name is O'Dane, and he's a person of worth to chat with as well. He kind of helps me get my live performances most of the time. So if you see me somewhere, whether I'm doing backgrounds or whether I'm doing something solo, it's most likely him that made the connection for me to go do that thing. But yeah, that's the team.
Nice. I love it. Now, I pride myself on keeping my podcasts rather short because they're usually about 15 minutes long because, people got lives and stuff like that. But this is just such a good conversation. But I do have a few more quick questions. I think they're quick. We shall see. How did you wind up battling your perfectionism?
Oh.
I thought it was going to be quick. Maybe not.
Well, okay. Buffering. Let me load. It's really like a moment of realization. At first, I didn't realize that I was battling that because I think the fight for me would manifest in like procrastination or just overall shyness and not insecurity, really insecurity, and not being really able or ready to show people what I could do or even to call myself what I am. That was a big thing, I think. The moment that I actually articulated and called myself a producer or called myself an artist, those were pivotal moments for me because it's like once you put that on yourself, you have to accept everything that comes with it. So it's like if I tell y'all I'm a producer, this is like the voice in the back of my head. If you tell them you're a producer, then they're gonna like listen more closely to your. Yeah. They're gonna be able to see that you're not good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they have expectations, right?
Right. But it's like that. I think perfectionism and imposter syndrome must be dating because it's like
they had a baby.
They're all right. They're always together. But yeah. So it wasn't even just like one big overthrow of perfectionism. I am not a perfectionist. I will never do perfectionist things again. It has more been gradual steps toward being free and also like shedding, because it's layers, right? And maybe it's not called perfectionism. Maybe it's not all under that umbrella, but it's like, I don't want to keep the crippling insecurity of perfectionism, but I do appreciate the excellence. I do like, that I'm not just going to throw anything up there. Right. I'm going to make sure that, but then there's also that side where you got to have regulation. Be like, okay, when is enough enough? This is good. Like, it's not going to get any better. Post it. It's not going to get any better. Submit it to be mixed. Like it,
that middle ground is so tough to say, I have to strive for excellence, but I also have to know and appreciate where I'm at right now.
Exactly.
Having that appreciation, it's the fuel that keeps you going. You can say, look how far I have come. And I don't think we do that enough. And I'll raise my hand and say, hi, I'm Monique, and I don't appreciate myself enough. I'm always looking for the highest mountain. And when I get to it, I'm looking towards the next mountain, but I'm starting to learn. Okay, let me preach again.
I got both
I don't
hands
know.
up.
I'm starting to learn that if we treat ourselves that way, then we're not appreciating. And then it feels like all the work, like if somebody treated us like that at our job, we would quit. We quit and call them all kinds of MFs and whatnot. Oops. We would not be a happy person if nobody else recognized how far we came and how hard we worked. And yet we do it to ourselves.
Right.
Anyway, I love your clarity. You seem so clear about who you are and what you want. My last question is, again, as a singer, how did you wrap your head around all the studio tech stuff?
Oh, wow. It took me a while. I've been fiddling with my laptop as a producer since 2010.
Okay.
So I got my first laptop. Yeah, I got my first laptop for college.
PC
and
or
it
Apple?
Came with GarageBand.
Oh, Apple. Okay.
So I got my first MacBook.
Look, I don't want to talk to nobody. Got a PC.
Right.
Wait, I'm going to edit that out.
Right.
That's horrible. That's not.
I'm so glad I had the right answer. Right. But we do have this kind of pride.
Yes, there's a geekery pride.
We put an Apple sticker right on our head,
exactly.
Right? That's why they give us the stickers, is to put on our head. But anyhow.
By the way, I get no money from Apple for this. None. Zilch.
Right.
Not yet.
Right. So I got my first MacBook in 2010 for college. And it just started out with me messing around with GarageBand. I used to do loads of a cappella arrangements with my first my first laptop, because I didn't have a keyboard and I didn't know how to play anything yet. So and it was funny. I wish that y'all could see, I didn't have any mic at the time. So I used to press record and just lean over my laptop and sing everything into it. It was bad, but
no, but you had, you made it work.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I wouldn't play anything that I made at that time for you.
That's okay. I mean, but it certainly got you into the process of recording, listening back, making changes, adjusting, because that's a process,
Exactly. Yes.
Singers often, I think they record, they don't listen back, so they can't make the change, and they just keep recording and not listening back and not changing. Now you think you got a funny story about recording. When I was little, I remember having this Casio. I don't know how many keys it had, but it was a little Casio and it had a recording feature. And I was like, I got a cassette recorder. I'm dating myself here. Okay. I can record something with my Casio and play it out and then record it with my cassette and sing on top of that. So I just made 3 tracks. Well, 2 really insane. And that's how I did that's how I started recording, But
that's innovation.
Listen, I did with what I had, I did what I could with what I had. So just out of curiosity, what is your current setup for recording? What are you using?
Yeah. Right now I produce in Logic, and that's just because it's a comfort zone for me at this point, because like I said, I've been using GarageBand and Logic are like siblings. So, I've been using that sort of DAW for so long that I'm just really comfortable producing, and I'm fast producing in Logic. So I produce the music in Logic, but then I head over to Ableton. Okay. Ableton is like a new acquisition, I'll say. Maybe that's not the right word. But I've learned at least how to record in Ableton, and I like the experience. So I use Ableton to record my vocals. I do have some plugins that I tend to use. Slate Digital has a really good one called a Virtual Mix Rack. It's got like a compressor and all that sort of stuff that kind of helps my voice come out nice and smooth. So when you hear me, really anything that you've heard of mine has been actually recorded through Ableton on my laptop in my closet.
Okay. Yeah, I think I saw that somewhere that you recorded, because the sounds be banging in the closet.
Well, yeah. I got my clothes all around. I have a towel sheet combo that I drape over my head. I got the microphone nestled in between all the clothes. I go in there. I do my recording. It gets hot in there sometimes, but you know what? We got to do what we got to do.
What mic are you using?
Oh, yes. I have a Warm Audio Junior. I don't remember like the, I think I don't want to say the wrong thing. But it is a Warm Audio microphone. And then I have like a Chaotica eyeball for isolation.
Okay.
And then in the closet is like double the isolation. So it's like really crisp.
Okay. All right. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to stop with the tech stuff because you done lost me. But I like having that information out there for other people who are a bit more tech savvy than I am and who need that information. Because, again, this is all about sharing. Listen, I want to, again, thank you so much for taking all this time, because I know you busy, child. I know you got more modes to be putting out there and people to teach and, schooling them. Just thank you so much. Thank you for being such a positive light in the singer community. I think it's important to say that when we see somebody like that. I just want you to know I see you. If nobody else sees you, I see you. But I know a lot of people see you. Is there any last parting words that you'd like to say to our listeners?
I think if I was to say one final thing, I just want to emphasize and make sure that you know that whatever improvement you want to make, you can make it. Whatever thing you're thinking about your voice that it is not quite where you want it, I just hope that you'll never allow that to discourage you completely, and that you will look for the resources because they're out there. Do what you can to make the improvements that you want to see so that you can enjoy the gift of singing. Try not to be so hard on yourself, and just know that whatever you want to do better, you can do better, and, go for it.
I love it. Those are famous last words, and I love it. See, I told you, isn't she fun? Isn't she wonderful? Such a generous person. It's always nice to see somebody that is so knowledgeable be so generous with that knowledge. She cares. And she cares so much that she even decided to give all of my listeners a 15% off of a one-to-one ear training session with her. I think I'm going to take her up on it for myself. But in any case, all that information will be in the episode notes. Thank you for listening. And listen, it really helps if you subscribe. That way you don't miss anything. And tell a friend about it. Musically, Monique.